crazy how many teams had a chance to win. The Ripper GC went from 9 back to leading by 2 to near the cellar again late in the day. It was so volatile, counting 4 scores. It was pretty nuts, but you know, the cliques have been cellar dwellers for basically 2.5 seasons, and they come out victorious today. That's awesome.
Be the summer of the cliques, definitely. So, like I said, there's definitely more to come from us.
It was a magnificent ball striking performance.
Yeah, you know, I got to speak to someone in his camp before he teed off this morning, and they said to me that he is finally feeling extremely comfortable out here. He's not thinking about any swing thought. He's going out there, he's swinging so freely, and it certainly showed today. The way he drove the ball, the way he hit his irons, and even in his putting as well.
Yeah, and lives in Texas, went to school in Texas. His tour win on the PGA Tour was here in Houston, which is Texas, and now his first live win, Texas.
Honestly, it was just a matter of playing solid coming down the stretch. I think there was a switch there on 15 that I made birdie, he made bogey, and I just knew that I had to power in pretty much, and it was mine. The 18 I made bogey, but it worked. He played unbelievable, and he put pressure all the way to the end, and it was a good battle. I love playing here. Obviously, Texas treats me well. It's my adopted home state, so I'm just happy to get it done again in Houston.
Welcome back into a new episode of Bare Knuckle Fighting Main Event here on SportsGrid. I'm Brian Ciano. Thank you so much for joining us as we take our weekly look at everything going on in the world of the Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships. And we got some more action on the way. We got a big card coming up. Hollywood, Florida this weekend, BKFC 62. It's going to be 3 title fights on the line. We'll break that down in just a minute. But before we get into that, let me tell you what we have coming up on the show the rest of the afternoon. Now, of course, coming up later on, we're going to do a double shot with our man, Chris Lights Out Lytle, coming up next. Of course, he's getting ready to travel down to Florida for that card. He will be on the call, as he always is, with Sean Wheelock. Be there ringside, calling everything that happens in the squared circle. We'll catch up with him, find out what he thinks about these fights, how he thinks they're going to break down. Catch up with him on his travels, bouncing all around for the BKFC, some of the things he's seen, and some of the fights, not necessarily that he has watched, but maybe ones that he's picking, as he has had some battles with some big names in combat sports. And then we'll even bring up some big news that has just dropped before the show started about a big fight involving one of the names in the BKFC that people love to follow, Mike Platinum Perry. We'll find out about who he's going to do battle with next and what our man Chris Lytle thinks of that. Later on, we'll also talk to lightweight Ruben War as he gets ready to headline the card out in California in a couple weeks. Of course, that is going to be on July 12th. Out of Pachanga, BKFC Fight Night Pachanga. He will be headlining that card against Robbie Problems Peralta. That should be a flat-out battle out there in Cali. The second time that the BKFC will make its way all the way west, out to the West Coast, and do battle out in California. Of course, the first time was that Knucklemania 4 card in LA. We'll see if this one can live up to how great those fights were. There should be some great fighters that we maybe haven't seen yet, that they found out tryouts and test out and see what they can do. But then, of course, it'll be headlined by these two guys that love to throw down, mix it up, and just do battle in the squared circle. Later on after that, we will talk to our man Slick Rick Caruso, the bantamweight in the BKFC. He is coming off his first victory. Had a little bit of struggle early on in his BKFC career with a couple losses. Now, finally on the winning ways. We'll see if he can make it 2 in a row. Talk to him about his fight coming up this weekend down in Hollywood, Florida, against Justin Ibarola. See what he thinks about the young knockout artist that has made his way through a couple opponents so far in the BKFC. All that coming up. And then, as I said, we'll talk about Mike Perry's next fight that was just announced. Hint, hint, not in the BKFC, but we'll see what kind of attention it can bring to the organization. First up, though, we have these fights this weekend. Let's break them down. It is stacked all the way from top to bottom. A lot of great fights. 3 title fights at the top. 1 huge fight for the women's division to possibly decide who gets a shot at the title. Let's talk about those fights right now here on SportsGrid. At the top of the card will be the featherweight title on the line with Kai Hefty Bag Stewart going against Brian El Gallo Duran. Of course, the odds, if you look at them right now, actually favoring the challenger. Duran minus 149 on this. Stewart plus 112. Now, this is a fight that has been in the making for a while. These are two guys that do not like each other. This is bad blood through and through. This isn't for the cameras. This isn't for the fans trying to get you to go pay attention to this fight. This is a fight where these two guys hate each other. And probably a lot of it is because of El Gallo, Brian Duran, running that mouth as he loves to do with everybody. He loves to play those head games. Kai Stewart is not a fan of that. He doesn't think people get in his head at all. And so far, it has worked for him as he is that title holder. He is the champion. Of course, Duran coming off 6 wins in a row in the BKFC. Just fought Louis Lopez down in Hollywood, Florida in February. Before that, let's go to High Pine, Aguilar, Bowen, Tovey, Futrell. So after Louis Lopez gets a little questionable on the level of his opponents so far, but still, they were put in front of him. He took care of business. He gets victories. He has gotten stoppages. Now he's going to face the champ, of course, Kai Hefty Bag Stewart, a guy who's just coming off a win of his own over another Miami guy, and Howard H.G. Davis beat him at that pay-per-view in Utah last year. That was his first title defense after getting it off Louis Lopez, when they both matched up to be the champion, the first ever champion, then made his first title against H.G. Davis. A lot of people counted him out there against the Miami guy. He was the underdog. People thought he was going to lose that belt right away. Came out and made H.G. Davis fight a completely different fight than he wanted to fight, and made him look not nearly the fighter that we have seen before. So a great performance by him. He's also beaten guys like Rusty Crowder, Derek Gates, Gary. So he has had, 5 wins now. He is not always the most flashiest fighter, but he is a guy that's going to grind you down, get the victory, and get the win. And, we saw that he even put Louis Lopez on the canvas. People didn't expect that. So we've seen some power in the last couple of fights. We'll see if that continues here against a guy like Duran who's going to be coming forward the whole time now. Duran's tough. He has power. He has grit. He has run through everybody. Those guys are not on the level of Kai Stewart. And I think we see a lot of the grappling, the wrestling, the clinch work that we saw many times before with Kai Stewart in this fight. Because he knows that, as much as he does not like Duran, the guy's dangerous. The guy can knock him down if he lets him just unload on him. Anybody on any given day when there's no gloves on can do that for sure. So now I think he shows that respect and goes back to his base, goes back to those wrestling days. We talked to him a couple weeks ago, and he talked about competing in wrestling again for the first time in a while. I think that factors into this fight, and he grinds out another decision, maybe even a dominant decision, if he can just control Duran, put him where he wants to against the ropes, and get those short shots that he loves to throw. We will see all that. Then, of course, on the card, also a title fight between Keith the Rockstar Richardson going against his opponent, who was also, again, favored, the challenger favorite, in Alberto Blas. The Miami resident, Cuban-born fighter, has been running through people. He's got a great record here in the BKFC, 4-0. He's got wins. He's got knockouts in all of them. This is a guy, again, who's very dangerous going against the champion. If you look at the odds, Blas, minus 140 favorite. Richardson, plus 106. Again, the champ not getting the respect he probably deserves. This is the first title defense for Rockstar Richardson, but he took a guy in Reggie Barnett Jr., who was a longtime champion, who was one of the best in this division for a long time, and pretty much kicked his butt. That was a very big display for Rockstar Richardson in his title fight. He has fought every different way. We've seen him fought, a 5-round battle against Scoggins where it went the distance and he gets the victory. We've seen him knock out guys in his other fights. He, beat up Barnett Jr. really well. Now he's going to go against a guy who, again, a knockout artist, been in a lot of quick fights, but hasn't been dragged into those deep waters. So can he do it when you need it the most, those 4th and 5th rounds against a guy who holds that belt? I feel like this is another situation, just like I just talked about with that, featherweight title. I feel like Rockstar's been there. This isn't a guy who's just, a couple fights in his BKFC career. This is a guy who's a Marine. This guy who's, has lost friends and family and been in, actual war. You're not going to bully him. He's not scared of anybody. He'll respect you. But I think, he knows how to fight and get around those big shots and avoid some. Maybe 1 or 2 catches him and puts him on the map, but it's not going to count him out. It's not going to put him down. He's going to be done. So I think he finds a way to battle through, maybe very close. Again, probably by decision, maybe a situation where it's 48-47, we're 3 rounds to 2. but I think he holds on to that belt. Also on that card, fighting for a title, we have Jared Captain Deadpool Warren against the Archangel Jomi Escoboza. Now, this is a rematch. These guys have fought before. Jomi's first fight in the BKFC was against Jared Warren, and it went Warren's way by decision. Jomi has said that he backed up too much in that fight. We talked to him about that. He said, I was giving this guy too much respect. I was moving backwards. That's not my style. I like to come forward. I like to put the pressure on. He plans to do that in this fight. That's going to be hard against a guy like Warren, a great counterpuncher who's strong in his own right. Warren, a heavy favorite here, minus 200, even though Escoboza is going to be in his home city. He's plus 148. Jared Warren just keeps getting better and better. We've seen that with Escoboza as well. He keeps getting better and better, but Warren's done against tougher competition. We just saw him go across the pond to the UK and, push around Danny Christie. Didn't get his belt, of course, because, he wasn't fighting for it, but took the champ of the UK and bullied him. Escoboza is going to try to do that to Warren. I don't know if he can. This one's going to be a tough call. This one's going to be a tight fight. I think we can see this go the distance again between these two, and I think Warren might squeak out the decision. And then, very important fight for the women's flyweight division. Christine Vichens, who we talked to last weekend, against Melanie Shaw. Shaw coming off her title loss against Britain Hart. Vichens coming off a long layoff. She wins this. She can get herself in title picture. She's a big favorite, minus 235. I think she gets it done. I think she's going to be bigger than Shaw, and that's going to factor in. Maybe she even jumps to Jadna San Wong for her title shot at the Misfit. All that happening this weekend. Make sure you tune in on the BKFC app. Next, we'll talk to the man calling those fights. My man Chris Lights Out Lytle here on Sports Grid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
11 and 12. I know you're going to get Mafia excited here. Hot and bothered.
You got to put Aaron Rodgers here and the Jets at 11. I would put him higher, but again, he barely played football last season. They've addressed their offensive line. It's not going to be great. The depth at wide receiver is a problem for me. Defense, perhaps the best in the National Football League. If Rodgers plays 14 games, they're probably going to win that division over the Bills.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Rory Mack, it is going to be remembered. It will be a lasting image from the 2024 United States Open, just like Bryson DeChambeau's 55-yard bunker shot.
We love big-time winners. Like, you win a championship, we want to hear from you. You get the stage. Sometimes it's emotional. It's a great watch. We know we also love the losers who said, you know what, I just can't believe I folded down the stretch. Let me face the music here. You sort of get a new light there.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Bare Knuckle Fighting, main event here on Sports Grid. And we have this huge card coming up this weekend. Hollywood, Florida, BKFC 62. We've been talking about it for weeks, and when we have a stats card like this, there's only one guy we have to get on, break down all the fights, and we even have some breaking news we can talk about with him in our next segment. But first, let's bring in Chris Lights Out Lytle and talk about everything going on in Hollywood, Florida as he gets ready to travel down to the Sunshine State. Chris, thanks so much for your time, man. We appreciate it as always. Let's just get right into it. This card is stacked. 3 title fights on the line, even some other fights that are, big for their division, especially in the ladies division there. So why don't we go right from the top? Kai Stewart versus Duran. A lot of bad blood, a lot of talking. A lot of people thought they could bully Kai Stewart. They thought they could push him around, a la Louis Lopez, a la H.T. Davis. Durant feels he can do the same thing. I don't know. I feel like he might have trouble doing just the same thing that everyone else has tried.
Man, I mean, Kai Stewart has really changed the game, in my opinion. We've learned that you don't have to be the greatest boxer. You don't have to be the most skilled striker. You can incorporate wrestling, pace, wiring people down, weaponizing just pace and using a grind. I mean, he's done that better than anybody. Wears people down, makes them fight his fight, and beats them. Nobody's been able to stop that. Everybody thinks they can. Can Durant do it? He's going to have to land some hard shots, but Kai Stewart's been smart and not gotten hit with those so far. The good thing about this fight to me is these guys really don't like each other. A lot of times we talk about after the fight, guys can hug it out. That's not happening this time. These two guys are going to probably be flipping each other off and demanding a rematch. Whoever loses is not going to be happy. These two guys don't like each other. It's going to be a fantastic fight, though. When you have that much animosity and that much bad blood, I can't wait.
Yeah, I feel like we get a lot of that with Kai Stewart fights. We had that with Lopez. Like they just really did not like each other. You have that respect you have to go through, or the guy, but still didn't like each other, even if they respect each other. Two guys that might have that more respect for each other, probably have a more cordial fight than we'll see after them. Is of course this title fight there at bantamweight. You got Rockstar Richardson defending his title for the first time. We've seen him fight multiple ways. We've seen him in a 5-round, just war. We've seen him drop guys. We saw him, make former champion Reggie Barnett Jr. look somewhat pedestrian in his fight to take this belt. Now he takes on his first title defense against Blas, a guy who has come through and just dropped people left and right so far in the BKFC. But, this is definitely the biggest competition he's faced so far. Can he step up?
And that's going to be the thing we don't know because we haven't seen him in a tough fight. He's just dominated everybody, has Blas. So we know how good offensively he is. What about how much heart does he have? Can he take a punch? Can he get rocked and get back up? We know Keith Richardson can. We saw that his first fight with Skaggs. It's one of the best fights we've ever had, in my opinion. Great war back and forth the entire time. We don't know if Blas has that. You know why we don't know? Because he's been so dominant. His offense is so good. Intriguing fight. I don't know who's going to win. Either it's probably over quickly or if it goes longer, I mean, he could still have plenty in the gas tank, and he could be a dog. We don't know. We're going to find out. A lot of questions are going to be answered after that fight.
Now, I know, obviously, being a broadcaster, you can't bet on these fights, but it was very intriguing to me to see these odds. You see them on BKFC site on the app that in both these fights, the champion is the underdog. Do you think there's just not too much respect for the challenger, not enough respect for the champion? How do you feel about that, knowing that these guys are coming in as underdogs, even though they got that belt?
I didn't know that, but man, that's crazy to me. Both those guys are well, then you're dealing with two undefeated fighters who were coming after them in their hometown. So it makes a little sense, but yeah, usually the champ's always favored. So that is a little surprising.
Speaking of favorites, a guy who's not necessarily in his hometown, but in his home state. Well, both these guys are in their home state. Escoboza now is his hometown, but Jared Warren is the big favorite in that one. Minus 200. These guys have fought before. This is a rematch. This one is for the title. Escoboza, Jomi talked about, it's going to be a much different fight, that he backed up too much, gave too much respect to Captain Deadpool in their first matchup. Do you think he's going to live up to that, or do you think Jared Warren lands a couple of those big shots that we've seen him landing against guys like Danny Christie and makes Escoboza rethink coming forward too much?
Well, Danny Christie, he's an animal. He's a really good fighter, and Jared Warren just looked phenomenal against him. He just shows he's getting better and better and better. And that's the thing. This is a rematch. And who won the first one? Warren won this one. So you'd have to think he has the advantage. However, that's a little deceiving in my opinion, because a lot of times it's very difficult to beat a very good guy twice. It all depends on the guy's mindset. If the guy's mindset who won the fight think this is going to be an easy fight, that could be a big problem. If Warren thinks he's going to walk through and Jomi's just going to lay down, that ain't going to happen. So if Jared Warren's on his A game, he's going to have to be on his A game, because Jomi, he that's his only loss in bare knuckle. He's coming to get that back. So that should be a fantastic fight.
I'm looking forward to the two guys with a lot of power in that division, and we finally get to see a new champion in that division, obviously, with the belt. We had Warren fighting for that belt, that interim belt that unfortunately, was called the no contest due to the shots to the back of the head. But now we get to see, hopefully, someone walk away with this strap, of course, after the long time since we've seen the Juggernaut defended as he moved up 205, and then heavyweight, and we'll see what's next for him. But also on this card, very important for the women's flyweight division, Christine Vichens versus Melanie Shaw. Shaw coming off that loss to Britton Hart, maybe got to there a little quicker than she was ready for, that she gets, picked apart by the champ. The teeth is flying. Christine Vichens hasn't been back for a while. Both these ladies could easily put themselves in conversation for fighting the champion, the Misfit. I know, Jacques Masson Wong is sitting there waiting, but Vichens did beat her, so if she puts on a good performance against Shaw, do we see her maybe jumping over the Canadian and getting the shot against the Misfit?
It could definitely happen. Vichens is the only loss that Jay Marsong Wong has had. So how do you have, this girl beat Marsong Wong, go undefeated, and not get a title fight ahead of her? That makes complete sense to me. So this is a huge fight. This is a huge opportunity. Melanie Shaw is always in there just to be a tough, rugged dog. She will wear you down with weaponization of pace, gets in your face and pushes you around. That's a different style. People haven't dealt with that. People haven't used that. Or face it, you don't know how to deal with it. We don't know how Christine's going to deal with that. If she can deal with it and keep her at bay and keep landing punches against Melanie Shaw, one thing. But if she gets worn out and gets tired out, that's a totally different style. I love that fight, that matchup. We're going to see a lot.
Well, we'll be back in just a minute. And, of course, speaking of bad blood, I got to talk to Chris Light about something that he's had recently with a big name in the combat sports world. And then we had some big news drop just before Chris came on. I don't even know if he knows this. I'm sure he does, being behind the scenes. We're going to talk to him about a big fight involving Mike Perry. That'll be his next battle. We'll talk to all that next after the break here with Chris Lights on Lytle on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
Can he be a guy that's really useful in your fantasy rotation? I think the answer is yes.
Game time decisions.
I'm going to lose the bet because he's injured again.
Betting above the rim.
He's got a broke Jay. That's all there is to it. He's got no confidence in that jump shot.
My thing you've always heard me say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Wondering when that was going to happen, and the answer is it just
Sometimes
did.
The bigger guy will have the advantage. Well, if the little guy can move, Joe, it's hard to hit the little guy sometimes when you're a big boy, right?
In-game live, prime time.
40-1, I'm going to take a little flyer on Justin Rose.
In-game live, overtime.
As you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
He went bogey, double, par, birdie, bogey. Thomas Dietrich's all over the place here today.
This golf course is so volatile where it can make you look like a fool in just a matter of minutes. And, you look at a guy like Thomas Dietrich. He's right there tied for the lead or whatever it was, and now he's like 4 or 5 over in the wink of an eye.
In-game live, all access, only on SportsGrid.
Do you believe that Bobrovsky's minus 420 number right now using the FanDuel Sportsbook is an appropriate pricing?
I look at how strong Bobrovsky's being able to be, and he's been stealing these games. And when we look across the board for the rest of the Florida Panthers, there's not that standout player out there. So you got to remember, this is a voted on award.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Bare Knuckle Fighting main event here on SportsGrid. We continue to talk to our man Chris Lights Out Lytle as he gets ready to head down to Hollywood, Florida. The BKFC 62 this weekend is going to be stacked. And make sure you watch Chris on the broadcast with our man Sean Wheelock as they call all the action from down there in the Sunshine State. 3 titles on the line. It's going to be awesome. Make sure you make that part of your weekend. But before we let you, we talked about Kai Stewart. the champion that he is. I saw a great picture of you out in Denver for the Prospect Series, looking old school, the bare knuckle boxer they had there, the picture. You had the form, you had the whole pose, but you might need Kai Stewart's mustache to really fit in completely.
Yeah, I didn't know that was going to be there. I would have grown it out otherwise, but it was awesome. I love Denver, love the area. Went into a couple places. I think that was in Boulder. Just happened to wander in, and I saw that. I was like, oh, my God, look at this. We're here for bare knuckle fights. I got to get a picture. But, man, that was a fantastic place. I like it out there a lot. I can't wait till we go back. Always have a great crowd there. And those fights were amazing. I loved it. I got to talk to the fighters. I told them, hey, I don't care what's going on here. Do not leave this in the judge's hands. I'm tired of hearing people complain about I won that fight and I lost the decision. Don't leave it in the judge's hands. And you know what happened? None of the fights went the distance. No fight went past 4 rounds. People came to fight, and it was perfect.
Yeah, everybody was getting dropped on that card. A lot of action, what the fans love to see, and of course, what you love to see. And speaking of wanting to drop somebody, I saw you have a little beef with UFC Sean Strickland. He's talking a lot of smack. A lot of these guys don't know what's going on. They're just gonna putting everything down, thinking they're at the top of the pinnacle here, and everyone else is just peasants. But you're trying to set him straight there. I like you standing up for the product, for the BKFC, and letting them know, this is what it is. You're wrong. And you know what? If you still think you're right and you want me to prove it a different way, let's match up.
Well, you're not going to talk sense to that guy. He just seems like he just says whatever, but he just doesn't know what he's talking about. I looked it up. His first fight in UFC, he made $10,000. I tried to explain to some people on a different show. Yeah, on my first fight in the UFC, I made $500. So we pay way better than that. It's just, when people don't have the money, they're a multi-billion-dollar company. It's easy to pay people great. We're not there yet. We're working there. We're going to get there. So, you don't know what you're talking about. So shut your mouth and just, do whatever your nonsense you do. Talk about whatever stupid, idiotic stuff you usually do. I'm not a big fan of his. So, yeah, he wants to act like an idiot, whatever. I don't even care about him anymore. I was just pissed at the time because he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's talking about our product, which I think is the most exciting thing in combat sports today.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. As much as I've been a long time follower of the UFC, watched so many fights. I mean, that class action lawsuit would seem to show otherwise, that they're paying, taking care of everybody. And you've heard countless other promotions come out and say, about the fighter pay, and Bellator, probably these other ones that would pay a lot more. So it's been a long history of not necessarily taking care of people. For him to come out and say, that you guys don't do that is just ridiculous, when, pot calling kettle black, and even though it's not even true. But
exactly.
Let's get, to more exciting things, guys who are going to get paid and probably get paid pretty big for this one. Mike Perry just announced that, he was chasing it after Mike Tyson had his medical issues, and now appears that he is going to get his fight with Jake Paul. It's going to be the 20th down in Tampa, Amalie Arena, boxing match, 8 rounds. What do you think about, we've had the crossover of other combat sports guys coming to the BKFC. How big do you think it is for Mike Perry to get this fight against Jake Paul and try to put the BKFC even further on the map for maybe people who, are watching these, influencer fights, but not necessarily paying as much attention to the real combat sports yet?
Well, I'm happy for Mike Perry. It's a big pay for him. People don't understand the difference in boxing and MMA and bare knuckle. I mean, boxers, it's like, you could be the first guy on the card. You're not making hardly anything. The last guys are making all the money. It's just a different model. So he's going to make good money. I'm happy for him. But Jake Paul has a good ability to fight guys he's way bigger than. So, I mean, by the time the fight actually happens, I bet he's 30 pounds bigger than Mike Perry, and with gloves on. That's one thing that Mike's so good at. He can just take a punch and come back and hit you with bare knuckles and knock your teeth out. But, I mean, it's hard to do with gloves. So I think the fight benefits Jake Paul, but Mike Perry's a dog. He's going to be in a fight no matter what kind of fight it is. A stand-up fight, he's going to be there to fight. So should be a great, entertaining fight, I think. I think Mike Perry will do very well. Only thing I don't like about it is he's probably going to be about 30 pounds lighter. There's weight classes for a reason. He wants to get paid, though. I understand how this system works.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the big criticisms has been. Guys like Woodley, guys like Askren, always much more. Mike Tyson was going to be the first guy. He actually fought as his size or bigger. Now all of a sudden we'll have to see
but he was 30 years older than him,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's amazing that they were even going to sanction that fight, or might even still. That's a joke to me, but that's what a lot of these fights, with these guys have been, unfortunately. But they're getting the attention, so hopefully we can turn that around and get some eyeballs on Mike Perry and bring it back to the BKFC afterwards. But get those eyeballs this weekend in Hollywood, Florida. Thanks so much, Chris Lights Out Lytle.
Thanks, guys.
Crazy how many teams had a chance to win. The Ripper GC went from 9 back to leading by 2 to near the cellar again late in the day. It was so volatile, counting 4 scores. It was pretty nuts, but you know, the cliques have been cellar dwellers for basically 2.5 seasons, and they come out victorious today. That's awesome.
It'll be the summer of the cliques, definitely. So, like I said, there's definitely more to come from us.
It was a magnificent ball striking performance.
Yeah, you know, I got to speak to someone in his camp before he teed off this morning, and they said to me that he is finally feeling extremely comfortable out here. He's not thinking about any swing thought. He's going out there, he's swinging so freely, and it certainly showed today. The way he drove the ball, the way he hit his irons, and even in his putting as well.
Yeah, and lives in Texas, went to school in Texas. His tour win on the PGA Tour was here in Houston, which is Texas, and now his first live win, Texas.
Honestly, it was just a matter of playing solid coming down the stretch. I think there was a switch there on 15 that I made birdie, he made bogey, and I just knew that I had to power in pretty much, and it was mine. The 18 I made bogey, but it worked. He played unbelievable, and he put pressure all the way to the end, and it was a good battle. I love playing here. Obviously, Texas treats me well. It's my adopted home state, so I'm just happy to get it done again in Houston.
Welcome back to Bare Knuckle Fighting main event here on SportsGrid. Now, we got this great card coming up this weekend down in Hollywood, Florida for BKFC 62, but there's some great fights coming up down the line, too, and we have to start talking about those as well because you have lots of great fights. Too many to wait on. We can't wait till the week of the fight. We got to talk about some of them now. We got to start with the man headlining July 12th out in California, Ruben Ward, the lightweight. We bring him in now. Ruben, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate you joining us as you, in fight camp, getting prepped for this fight coming up next month. How are you feeling? How excited are you as you get to headline this card? It's got to be a great honor, coming off your last fight to, you even come back here and get, not just another fight quickly, but, you get the headlining card.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. I did not expect that, I thought I won. If you look at the comments, everybody thought I won. I kind of took that as like a learning lesson. It just made me want to train harder. This is the hardest I've ever trained. I'm in the best shape of my life now. And I've been practicing more bare knuckle style. So, Robbie, be ready, man. I'm coming.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about that. You brought up that last fight against Andrew Angelcourt. It's a tough fight. We've had him on the show. He's a great fighter. We enjoy talking to him. But, I agree with you I went back and watched that fight again, before we came on here. And I'm like, I'm surprised, you felt like it was completely hometown cookie because I thought, especially the first couple of rounds, you were the one pushing the action. There wasn't a ton of punches landed either way per se, but I thought, your aggressiveness and you landed, some bigger shots. And then maybe, turned it up in the fourth or fifth a little bit. Maybe, got the fifth, I would say. But I agree, I would saw it 3-2 you, maybe even 4-1, depending on the judge. And your reaction after the fight, especially when they read the one card for the split decision and had it 4-1 for him, just utter shock and disbelief.
I want to know what weed that judge is smoking. I want some of that. Yeah, dude. I mean, the dude hit air. Yeah, he threw more, but he didn't land it. So what's the point, I feel like if we're talking, I landed the stronger punches. I was more accurate. I pressed too, and I made him miss majority of the fight. He could not hit me, and it's crazy. It is what it is, I guess. So I'm gonna do better this fight, and I will get this finish. You guys, I will get this finish. I will do whatever it takes to get this finish, and we can run it back. And if he doesn't want to run it back, Bobby Taylor, what's up? That's where I'm at with that.
A man who knows what he wants. You got names on that hit list. We love that always. Now, before we get into this fight, I want to talk about how we've got you. You had a great quote after that fight, of course, about fighting 2 times in a month. Still growing, showing how much you want to show how tough you were. Fighting quickly with that turnaround. It's been not necessarily a long journey. You've had a long fighting career, but for you with the BKFC, it's obviously been quick. Just started earlier this year. But I saw, that you one of these guys. They have them all the time, all over the country. You were one of these guys who took part in that in the tryout process. To get to the BKFC. How did that happen? So you went out to Virginia for that one. How'd that become? Was it someone suggested it to you? Something that you chased down? What made you go and try out and decide that you want to do this?
Man. So, long story short, I was gunned down last year. 8 bullet holes to my car. I still drive that car. And it just made me have a second outlook at life, I was angry. I was very, very angry. And I'm a single dad of 2 kids, and I know I have to lead as an example. So I went to this very small gym called Triumph Combat. And I said, hey, I just want to come in here and train, and I don't expect anything. I just want to train and work my anger out. And that's what I did. And then it started to be a process, and I got back to being addicted to training. And I saw that they had tryouts in Virginia, and I had a friend lend me their car to go to the tryouts, and I went to the tryouts and was the first one they were working and the last one they were working. So I told them at the tryouts, I'm the hardest worker you're gonna find. I'll fight anybody, line them up. I don't care. And that's what I'm doing.
Certainly what you have been doing so far, and obviously showing how good you are, right out of the gates. Like we said, you come off a loss and still getting a headline fight. You had a great post about how everyone talks about a lot of fighters give love to their teammates as you should. It's not just you getting where you are. You need people behind you. You need coaches. You need teammates. People working. For you, a family that's pushing you as well, I'm sure. But the hardest walk is the one you make alone, and that's always, of course, getting into that ring.
People don't know about that walk.
How hard
man.
is that?
It's very hard, bro. I got my heart broken doing this journey, and it's hard. Anybody who's experiencing the same, hey, more power to you. I understand it is the hardest thing I've ever done, and I've raised 2 kids by myself, so it definitely plays a toll on your mind, your heart, your spirit. You think you don't think that you deserve to be where you're at. You start thinking negative, and you got to fight those battles within yourself. And you just got to keep pushing and just keep waking up at 4 a.m, and just keep doing it. And then finally, I don't know if it's God. I don't know if it's, I'm not really. I don't know really much about the spiritual side, but I'm telling you, man, it's like a light in a path, man. You just got to follow it, and then when you do, I don't know. This is what you see. You know what I mean? And this is my daughter. Sorry, she's here at the doctor's.
How's it going?
She's been through a lot too. Being a parent's hard, bro. It's hard. It's being a dad. That pressure, and then trying to do everything by yourself. It's rough, man. But It's pushed me, bro. I mean, I'm training harder than I've ever done, and I'm more motivated. I got my heart broken. I use that as fuel. So when I knock Robbie out, it's gonna feel good.
Yeah, people always see what they do on the finished product. They see the fight, they see the fighter. They don't see what it goes, all that goes into the mental prep.
Yeah,
And
they
then
don't
all that
see
you
the
have to go through,
journey.
push, you have to push yourself. So, it's good
They
for you
don't see
to
the
share
journey.
that. And they don't, they only see the destination. They don't see what it takes. And, it's guys like you, we've talked to Caleb Harris about and some others about the mental anguish and, the way you have to put yourself through to get there. So, thank you for sharing that with us and shedding that light for the fans to know that. I think it helps, it could help a lot of people. But now you talk about this fight with Robbie. You're headlining this fight night card out in California. Obviously a tough guy. He's got power. He's dangerous as well. You're going for the knockout. You said you want to get the finish. You're not leaving in the hands of the judges.
Dude,
What are you seeing about Robbie? What do you have to worry
nothing,
about with him?
nothing against nothing against Robbie, but I'm a different dog, bro. You guys gonna see, dude. I'm different, man, and I've put a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication to this fight, and a lot of stuff has happened in my life, and it's made me train harder than I've ever trained, and I will knock Robbie out. There's no way he can stand my power. I'm bigger. I'm definitely bigger. I definitely hit harder. He's been in the sport for a long time, but so have I. So let's go.
Well, we look forward to seeing that fight. We look forward to seeing you your best. We've seen such great fights with you already. Looking forward to seeing you even more dedicated, more ready, and more excited. We look forward to it. Room War, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Rory Mack, it's going to be remembered. It will be a lasting image from the 2024 United States Open, just like Bryson DeChambeau's 55-yard bunker shot.
We love big-time winners. Like, you win a championship, we want to hear from you. You get the stage. Sometimes it's emotional. It's a great watch. We also love the losers who said, you know what, I just can't believe I folded down the stretch. Let me face the music here. You sort of get a new light there.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
This guy is the mad scientist. I mean, he's all about green density. So in my mind, I feel like he's going to have the green speeds dialed in and the angles he needs to land them and all that sort of stuff. I feel like he's going to be in a good spot and playing the course well. And he's going to be hitting less club into a lot of these par threes too. So I just, we're talking about using a live guy. I love Bryson this week. I'm riding with Bryson.
Only on SportsGrid.
This new sports integrity partnership, Genius Sports, is involved in this. More protection.
They said that's going to allow them to beef up their protection and add more integrity monitoring tools to essentially catch bad behavior before it happens. This comes obviously after a just ton of scandals we've had across sports betting lately, whether it's the MLB umpire, Pat Hoberg.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Do you believe that Bobrovsky's minus 420 number right now using the FanDuel Sportsbook is an appropriate pricing?
I look at how strong Bobrovsky's being able to be, and he's been stealing these games. And when we look across the board for the rest of the Florida Panthers, there's not that standout player out there. But you got to remember, this is a voted on award.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Bare Knuckle Fighting main event here on SportsGrid. We continue to look at this great card coming up this weekend down in Hollywood, Florida. Let's get involved with one of the guys who are going to be mixing it up in the squared circle, and that is Slick Rick Caruso coming on with us right now. Rick, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it as you get ready to go down there and do battle. I mean, how are you feeling as you're getting ready to go in there and put your fist to face and try to get another victory here in the BKFC?
Another day in paradise, fresh, recovered, on weight, ready to get on the plane, get it over with, get back home, see my family, hang out. We didn't really get to do a whole lot for Father's Day, so we're on a vacation after the fight, do Father's Day things like that. I got 5 kids, so.
Then you definitely deserve a day for yourself, absolutely, with your 5 kids. I mean, I have 2, and I feel you. I got home from a work trip to Vegas for the fights, and then everybody had COVID, so Father's Day got canceled. So we'll see, if we get to postpone that, later in the summer. But you work hard. You need to play hard as well every now and then. I mean, you work very hard. Obviously, we saw, all the things you do. Obviously, as a fighter, everyone knows about that. But so much more goes on when you're also a father, and when you you work full time outside to make sure you're paying those bills and help to take care of everyone, put food in the mouth. We saw videos of you doing a lot of some great work. Some great carpentry and that kind of stuff. Tell us a little bit about all the stuff that you do on the side as you still have to focus on fights and family and everything else, but still put food on the table.
I own a remodel business. As you can see, it's kind of a solo couple good people. It's hard to trust people when your name's on it. I actually just recently started advising on benefits as well, so I basically sell insurance. The more hens in the fire, I don't think that's how the saying goes, but more things you throw at the wall, something sticks, more money comes in. So it's going really well. The benefit advising stuff's going awesome. Somebody at one of the schools we were at the other day said, advise someone to go see the bare knuckle benefit guy. I was like, I got to trademark that. That's pretty cool. So
yeah, that's a great moniker there. Yeah, the irons in the fire. Definitely don't want to put hands in the fire. Not going to make fights that way, but you got to take care of business as you do, and you're looking to do it again this weekend down in Hollywood, Florida. Now you got your first win in the BKFC in your last fight there. How did it feel? You had a couple tough fights early on, some tough opponents that they gave you. Coming straight out the gates into the BKFC. Didn't go your way, but now you finally get that victory. How did that feel after those first couple fights to finally, get the W and, taste the winning ways here for the BKFC?
It was absolutely wonderful. I enjoyed it. It was icing on the cake after tough outings before. I honestly feel like it was my second W. I feel like I won the no contest fight, but that's don't leave it up to the judges, and there you go. But it was really fun and powerful to have my hand raised and have that W that we have been chasing for so long, because that's all this is. I'm just chasing the dream, man. And I'm 36 with 5 kids, but God, I'm living 25-year-old me's dream right now, boy. I'm on the #1 stage in the world. We're a feature fight before the main fights with all the titles, and that's going to be me in 2 more fights. So I love it.
Definitely some great placement on this card. I'm sure that hypes you up. You're on, so high on such a stacked card. It's got to feel great. But before we get into that, was there anything different in the last fight that you did either in preparation or, in the way you fought it? Anything that changed from, what you were doing earlier that didn't have success to finally get that victory?
Honestly, I think it's just more the experience. I was just having this conversation with my coach earlier. The more fights I have, the more I see things that are right there that don't land in boxing, don't land in MMA, but here they work. And knowing that, having that experience, it's been what was key. We've been able to dial in, this is what we need to do in training. We can forget these things in training. That's a waste of time. And just keep on keeping on. It's been fun, but between 2 businesses, the 2 businesses that I'm working, we're on the road working 60, 70 hours a week, and then we're in the gym. There's my babies in that picture. Then we're in the gym because it's a dream to chase, and to chase the dream, you got to put in the work, man. And it's a nonstop grind, and it's going to pay off on Friday, man. We get to silence the hard rock.
Yeah, I feel like you hear that from so many fighters, with this being such a young sport, people don't necessarily know the differences in what it takes to go from one to the other. You know what the difference in boxing and MMA, they've been around, but how different things are when you take all the gloves off and the different techniques and things you have to work in. So glad we're finding, they're finding your footing there. And now you come in here, as we said, highly placed on this stacked card down in Hollywood, Florida, against Ibarola. He's on a 3-fight win streak. He's from the area. He's going to have the fans behind him. What have you seen from his fights that you think you can use against him? What are you planning to do, and how do you feel, going into someone else's home arena where everyone's, booing you and backing him?
Up until the last fight, every other fight has been in someone else's home arena, and the boos is still the energy, man. When the crowd goes off, they go off. They can boo me, they can cheer me, I don't care. It's the energy in the building, the vibe. As far as what I've seen from Justin, he's a young up-and-coming kid. He's got good boxing skill. No disrespect to him at all. I'm excited to fight the number 4 ranked guy in the BKFC and take his position. I've seen nothing that makes me worried. We're going to go in there and get in a fight. He's not been hit by anybody the way I'm going to hit him. And we're going to have a fight, and then we might have an Irish stout afterwards. Thanks, Connor.
Well, we'll see. We're looking forward to it. We'll see how things go. You talked about you'll be in the title fight, in a couple fights that you think that's going to be happening, soon after you. We only have 30 seconds left. What do you think? Who's going to hold on to that belt after that night is done? Will the Rockstar still hold it, or will Blas be the one walking away with the gold?
Blas has been dropping everybody, but the same concept. He hasn't been into a dogfight like Ibarola and I are going to be in. So I think Rockstar is going to put him there, and we're going to find out. I think Rockstar takes it, and then Rockstar is going to have to fight me or Ryan Reaver.
Well, we will see all that if all that comes to fruition this Friday. We'll look forward to watching it. PKFC 62. Thanks so much, Slick Rick Caruso, for joining us before you go down there and throw fist to face here on SportsGrid.
This new sports integrity partnership, Genius Sports, is involved in this. More protection.
They said that's going to allow them to beef up their protection and add more integrity monitoring tools to essentially catch bad behavior before it happens. This comes obviously after a just ton of scandals we've had across sports betting lately, whether it's the MLB umpire Pat Hoberg.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
This guy is the mad scientist. He's all about green density. So in my mind, I feel like he's going to have the green speeds dialed in, and the angles needs to land them and all that sort of stuff. I feel like he's going to be in a good spot and playing the course well. And he's going to be hitting less club into a lot of these par threes too. So I just, we're talking about using a live guy. I love Bryson this week. I'm riding with Bryson.
Only on SportsGrid.
He went bogey, double, par, birdie, bogey. Thomas Dietrich's all over the place here today.
This golf course is so volatile where it can make you look like a fool in just a matter of minutes. And, you look at a guy like Thomas Dietrich. He's right there tied for the lead or whatever it was, and now he's like 4 or 5 over in the wink of an eye.
In-game live, all access, only on SportsGrid.
11 and 12. I know you're going to get Mafia excited here. Hot and bothered.
You got to put Aaron Rodgers here and the Jets at 11. I would put him higher, but again, he barely played football last season. They've addressed their offensive line. It's not going to be great. The depth at wide receiver is a problem for me. Defense, perhaps the best in the National Football League. If Rodgers plays 14 games, they're probably going to win that division over the Bills.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back as we wrap up another episode of Bare Knuckle Fighting Main Event here on SportsGrid. Thank you so much to our guests coming on and joining us. Of course, Chris Lotz at Lytle, Slick Rick Caruso, and Ruben War coming on to talk about their fights coming up. Of course, Caruso this weekend war. We'll have to wait a couple weeks to see him do battle. Can't wait to see that out in California once again for the BKFC for their second time. One other fight that you probably cannot wait to see, just announced. One that people were talking about, people have brought up, and of course, the guy from the BKFC that is involved was calling for, and has been calling for, is, we found out after Paul versus Tyson was postponed due to Tyson's health issues that now, apparently, he's still going to keep that date that he was fighting July 20th, and it's going to be against Mike Perry. That's right, Platinum Mike Perry from the BKFC going to be boxing against Jake Paul. Now, he was an alternate on Logan Paul's card, I think, and, unfortunately did not get to make it. There's a lot of drama about if that fight was going to happen or not, and he weighed in and everything, didn't get anything out of it, but now he gets to go after one of the Paul brothers, and he's going to do it against the bigger name in Jake Paul in an 8-round boxing match. It's going to be Tampa, Florida, Amalie Arena, July 20th on the Zone pay-per-view. This is going to be very interesting. Now, of course, also on that card, make sure it's going to be a great female fight with Amanda Serrano, one of the best in the business. Going to be having a fight there against Stevie Morgan before her rematch against Katie Taylor. That is, you want to talk about legit, awesome fighter to watch. Amanda Serrano is definitely up there, maybe even as good, if not better, than Mike Perry in boxing at least. But Mike Perry, the bare knuckle boxer, the former UFC fighter, going to be going boxing now against, which is not going to be his debut. He's done it before. Before he came to the BKFC, he did boxing. But now he's going to do that in a high form against Jake Paul. It's a very interesting fight. I mean, this is, as we talked to Chris Lights Out Lytle, it seems to be, people would dog Floyd Mayweather for, picking his opponents when he fought them, what the shape they were in, fought, Oscar De La Hoya 5 years too late, maybe fought Canelo 5 years too early, either before or after they've reached their prime. Well, Jake Paul has done a lot of this with fighting guys who are smaller. That Tyson fight was supposed to be the first one where it was a guy his size or bigger, and it was a guy who was 30 years older. Now he's going to be fighting Mike Perry, who, of course, fights smaller than him, is, much lighter weight class, down there, but is still a tough dude, is still game, and we'll see, maybe keeping a little extra weight on gives him some more power, which would be very useful now that he's going to have gloves on. We've seen him have some KO victories in the BKFC. It's going to be harder to do that with the gloves on, but, this guy has power. He has, grit. He has that dog in him. So if there's anybody who's going to be, putting that leather to the face of Jake Paul and making him regret doing it, it could be Mike Perry. And he now will get his shot. Of course, Jake Paul has fought guys like Tyron Woodley, dropped him, dropped Ben Askren, got decision wins against Anderson Silva or Nate Diaz. So, some guys that were smaller, some guys that were older. Anderson Silva, good size, his size, but long past his prime, had done some great things in boxing before that fight, but, got this decision win against him. But then, of course, when he fought Tommy Fury, an actual boxer who's, around his weight class, that's where he had trouble, and that's where he got his only loss on his record. Now he faces a guy in Mike Perry who's undefeated in the BKFC. Of course, had mixed results in the UFC before that. But since he has come to just straight boxing and, taking the gloves off, he has been dominant. He has won every fight. Had his battle against MVP that went to a 6th round. Might have been, scored incorrectly. And maybe MVP should have gotten the win after 5. Still, he got that extra round and he made use of it and he got that victory. Had his trouble against Eddie Alvarez in that 1st round. Comes back to get the victory. Smaller guy, fought Luke Rockhold, who was a bigger guy, but didn't have any bare knuckle experience. Made him lose a tooth, made him quit the fight. So he's kind of bounced all around, whether it be smaller, bigger, experienced, not experienced. Mike Perry has fought all comers and, of course, put a great stamp on his record in that fight against Alvarez in Knucklemania 4 out in LA. So that's probably his most impressive fight in the BKFC. Definitely showed against a guy who has that experience, who's that size. It was a great showing by him on the biggest stage for the BKFC in their first fight card out in California, out in LA, the Peacock Theater. He showed up, and now we'll see if he can do the same thing down in Amalie Arena down in Tampa at the end of July against Jake Paul. This is, some people might say, as we said, Jake Paul's picking guys who are smaller or picking guys he can beat, or, he's not really a boxer, he's an influencer. He's shown that he can definitely box. He's shown that he has power. Whether he is legit on the highest scale has yet to be seen. But whether you like what he's doing or not in the sport of boxing or MMA, this is going to be big for Mike Perry as far as paydays and eyeballs. And if you get more eyeballs on Mike Perry, It can be big for the BKFC. If he goes out there and has a great showing against Jake Paul, even gets the victory, that can make more people want to watch him the next time he takes off those gloves and fights for the BKFC. We're looking forward to that. So we'll talk to you next week and recap BKFC 62 here on SportsGrid.